Hello everyone, this is Professor DePaulo. Welcome you back to Site 265 Fully Online. And today we're going to be talking about how to write the title, the abstract, and the references. So let's click on the instructions here. And we'll go through how to do this, relatively straightforward part of the manuscript. I mean, the abstract can be a little bit tricky, but the references on the title page are pretty straightforward. So we're going to format a new title page first. So here's our title page. Basically, we have a header, right? So in the header, you're going to want your short title. So the first thing we have to do is come up with a title. It's around 10 words or so that describes the research that we've done. And we've done some research, some surveys on the correlates of health behavior correlates related to COVID-19. So we have to come up with a title for that. So I'm going to write let's see what I want to write here. Health predictors of COVID-19 So that's sort of a vague title here. I want to spice it up a little bit, write a little bit more. Behaviors and predictors of COVID-19 response. It's a really basic title. You're going to want something a little bit different than this that involve, health predictors of COVID-19 or behavioral health predictors of COVID-19 in an adolescent population. Something along those lines. I mean, it's really up to you what you want to call the paper, but it should be, between 7 and 15 words. So this is kind of on the short side, so I want something a little bit, a little bit more elaborate than this. See if I can come up with a better title. Health behaviors correlated with COVID-19 protocols. Health behaviors correlated with COVID-19 protocols. Not the best title, but come up with another title on your own. It doesn't have to be like an amazing title. It has to be about the paper, which is looking at the behavioral correlates with regard to COVID-19 and how people responded to COVID-19. So there's many ways to write a title. 7 to 15 words. Come up with your own title. My title's not that great here. I'm just kind of making this up like off the top of my head. Obviously, if I sat down and was trying to publish this, I would come up with probably a better sounding title than this. But I want you to come up with your own title for this, right? So let's make that 12-point font. Let me make this a better font here. Times New Roman or Arial. I want like a clean, legible font that I can actually read here. Like that, 12-point font. And then we want also to be centered. We want everything to be centered here. Like that. Center that. And the name. Of course I can't spell my name correctly. Keep getting the capitalization wrong. Then the affiliation. If you want to write City, University of New York, you can. You do not need to write, you don't need to write my name. Obviously, write your name, right? You don't have to write your degree. I typically write my degree. If I'm trying to publish this, of course, I have to write my degree. Borough of Manhattan Community College, BMCC, City University of New York. And leave it like that. Leave it in the kind of the middle, just above the middle of the page. And obviously your title should be different than this, which won't be hard because it's not a great title that I just kind of took a couple stabs at. It kind of sounds awkward anyway. I'd probably want to rewrite it if I were publishing this. So come up with a better title than what I wrote, basically. Now in the header, now I used to write running head at the top, and the APA style has changed now. So you're just going to write the short title in all capital letters. And that's the first few words of the full title. So I'm going to write the first 3 words of this title in all caps. And that's going to be my short title. Like that. And that short title is going to be on every page. Every page, short title on the left, header. And the right header, page numbers. So I have an option here to put in page numbers. Oops, don't want to do that. Just going to type in page 1 here. And obviously you're going to have page 1, page 2, page 3. You're going to label, page numbers for the entire document. So when you submit the final paper, you're going to have a short title, right? The first couple words of your full title, which is on the title page, in the left header, and you're going to have your page number in the right header. So this is what your title page is going to look like. So that's pretty basic. All you have to do is come up with a better title than I came up with, because my title is kind of boring. It's not great. So come up with something a little better than that. It doesn't have to be super long, right? 10 words. Between 7 and 15 words is fine, right? Your name, not my name, not Professor DePaulo, not any of that stuff. Just your name, your institutional affiliation, and I put City University of New York because, once you leave the New York area, people may not be familiar with Borough of Manhattan Community College, so I've been to conferences and I've labeled it Borough of Manhattan Community College, and even though it's telling you where it is, Borough of Manhattan, people still don't know where it is. So when I put City University of New York, people become more familiar with where it is, right? Because apparently they understand New York more than they understand Manhattan. I don't know. That's my experience. So I put city. So whenever I present at a conference, or present a poster or give a talk, I always kind of put in City University of New York also, so that people understand CUNY, right? I think people understand CUNY more than BMCC. So that's your title page, short title, page number, and now we need to do the abstract. So let's do abstract. So the abstract should be on a separate page, right? Obviously, I'm going to have to change these page numbers here so that they increase. So where's page number? So I just put current position here, page 1, and now everything's going to be labeled correctly, page 2, and so on and so forth, right? So this is going to be page 2. That's where I'm going to start my abstract. And you're going to want to center that as well. Center that, right? Now the abstract can be tricky. It's not super difficult to write, but it can be a little bit tricky. What you want to write is basically 1 or 2 sentences on each part of the paper. So you're going to have 1 or 2 sentences that talk about the problem, the stuff you talk about in the introduction, right? What is the problem? Why it's important? Okay, that's going to be your first 1 or 2 sentences. Then you're going to have 1 or 2 sentences talking about the methodology. So our class survey, right? And our sample. So you want to include that information in the next 1 or 2 sentences. And then you're going to have 1 or 2 sentences talking about the results without all the stats. So you're not going to put all the t-test results or the correlation results in there. You're just going to give me sort of what happened. And what happened is that we found a correlation between health anxiety and fear of future pandemics. That's important to mention in the abstract because that was the only hypothesis of the 5 that were supported. And when you write the abstract, you do not want to write in first person, so do not use I, do not use we, do not use our, do not use that stuff, right? I know technically sometimes people will use R and we in certain papers, but it's probably best to sort of try to avoid using that, and I sort of make this comment throughout a lot of the papers that I've looked at where people are using I and we and you, we did this, we did that, I did this, and that's just, it's too much. I just doesn't fit anywhere in a manuscript, and we and are, can be used sometimes, but it's probably best to try to avoid using them because people use them too much. If you keep reading, we did this, our results, we did that, it sounds like kind of like you're writing a blog entry or a journal, and it's really a professional paper. So I prefer to remove that stuff from any part of the manuscript. So the abstract, you're going to write 1 or 2 sentences about the topic and why it's important to study it. That stuff is the basis of the introduction. You're going to write 1 or 2 sentences on the methodology, include the sample, right? Composition of the sample. The sample was from, BMCC. It was mostly undergraduates, right? But you have to include the actual sample. And then you're going to have 1 or 2 sentences on the results without the statistics, and 1 or 2 sentences on the conclusion. What's the conclusion of the paper? Based on the research, what can we conclude, right? And that's going to be your abstract. It should be less than 150 words. And so I provide a sample of the abstract. So, purpose or main objective, couple sentences. The methodology, a couple sentences. An overview of the results findings without the statistics, a couple sentences. a summary of a conclusion, 1 to 2 sentences. So that's going to give you 150 words. Write it as a solid paragraph. Here's an example. So this paper is the effect of job stress on clinical health outcomes. So approximately 15 to 25% of the U.S. working population is classified as high risk for job stress. This type of stress is known to exert a psychological toll on workers. And so here's a citation. You can include a citation, but you don't have to in the abstract. But if you need to, you can include the citation. So this is sort of setting the stage. So what is this paper about? It's about jobs that are high stress and the psychological toll. So that's why it's important to study it. Now, we did in the class, we did a survey on health correlates of COVID behaviors. So you want to talk about that, and you want to talk about why it's important, and that stuff is in the introduction. So you need 1 or 2 sentences of that. We're studying this, health correlates of COVID behaviors. Why is it important? Because COVID was a serious problem. We don't really care about it now. We're tired of it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it was a serious problem, and this stuff could happen in the future. There's all kinds of things out there, viruses that we're not even familiar with yet, that could mutate and become, they're talking about the bird flu mutating now. I was reading about, they're worried that the bird flu will become more contagious or adapt to the human physiology and therefore cause a problem. And could that become a pandemic? Well, hopefully not. But there's plenty of these viruses out there that can mutate in ways that we're not even familiar with right now, that can cause problems in the future. And how do we handle this, especially if it's very contagious? So it's very important to know how people behave in the pandemic. As much as we're tired about it and we don't care about it anymore, we still have to look back and reflect upon what happened. Like, why did we behave this way? How do we stop the spread in the future if something happened? What if we have something more contagious, more deadly? Are we just going to say, screw it? COVID locked us down, so therefore we're just going to go out and have fun and not care? I don't know. I kind of think we might. Until people start dropping dead, and then we might pull back and start being more careful, but maybe the population won't even be more careful. Maybe people will say, I have to live my own life. I remember COVID, and they locked us down, and they shut everything down, and it was a disaster, and it caused all societal problems, so we can't go back to that. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully we don't get there, but we might. So that's like the first couple sentences. Briefly introduce a problem, describe why the problem is important. The next part, in an ongoing daily diary study, 68 adults, 37 females, completed measures of job stress and upper respiratory infection every day for 8 weeks. So that is methodology. That one sentence talks about the methodology, gives the sample. So you want to do that for the study we did, for the survey. Preliminary analyses show that males who had busier days at work, on average, also endorsed a greater number of upper respiratory symptoms. Additionally, males who reported lower job security and less supervisor support were sick with upper respiratory infections on more days across the study than were those with greater job security and supervisor support. Among females endorsing more busy days, whether home or work, was associated with greater endorsement of URI, upper respiratory infection symptoms. So these sentences summarize the results without the statistics. Basically, that's saying that, we found in this study, or they found, that males who had busier work days reported more symptoms. And males that have lower job security reported more symptoms. And females who had busy days also reported more symptoms. And now the last sentence or two is the conclusion. The findings expand our understanding of the links between job stress and immune functioning by elucidating effects on a clinically relevant health outcome. So you're going to mirror this structure with the current class study. So you're going to have a couple sentences for the introduction, a couple sentences for the method, a couple sentences for the results, and a couple sentences for the discussion. So you're not just copy and pasting what you wrote already, but you're just kind of summarizing each section and putting it together in less than 150 words as the abstract. Remember that the abstract is the first thing that the reader will look at to decide, do I want to read the entire article? So the abstract has to be good, because that's where you're catching people's attention and they're making a decision whether they should read the article or not. A lot of times you'll read the abstract and you'll say, yeah, okay, not worth reading. Next. And as an author of a study, you publish an article, you want people to read it. Because the more people that read your work, the more people cite your work. And the more people that cite your work, the more well known you become. The greater your reputation. So, and that plays a role also in terms of things like tenure and promotion. Especially at research universities, they want to make sure that your research is being cited. And that also plays a role in grants, in getting grants, applying for and obtaining grants. So there's a whole important aspect of people reading your research, because it gets you to places you want to be. It also gets you grants that help you produce more research. So that's the abstract. Now the reference section, I give you some samples of references, but the easiest way to do your reference page, so let's say we did our abstract here. Now at the end of the paper, the last section is the reference page. So it's not going to be page 3, it's going to be page whatever the end of your paper is going to be. We're going to call this references. Center it. Now the references have to be in alphabetical order by author last name. Alphabetical order by author last name. There's an easy way to generate references. And there are citation managers and citation machines also. But I'm going to show you a very simple way to do it without using these citation makers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Google Scholar. Now, if you want to use a citation generator, you can do that. But I do a lot through Google Scholar. So let's say you're looking at empathy and vaccination. That's an article that you were interested in, or one of the topics you looked at when you wrote your introduction. COVID vaccination. So here's an article about linking information about herd immunity through vaccination and empathy. Promote COVID vaccination intentions. Okay, so let's say you use this article. You cited this in your introduction, and now you have to cite it, right? So if you want to cite this article, all you have to do is click on this thing that says cite. And it gives you various formats, and we want APA. So we want APA format, so you're just going to copy this, and you're going to paste it into your reference section. Like that. And then you're just going to format it. So the first line is not indented, and the second and subsequent lines are indented. So we need to indent second and subsequent lines. So I'm going to cut that. Just tab over. And there you go. And if I want to double space like that, there's my citation. So the first line not indented, second and subsequent lines are indented. Make sure that the journal name is in italics, and it is. And then this is the volume number, and the issue number is also in italics. The page number is generally not in italics. and have your source here, right? You have your reference. And then you go find every article you're using and you're citing. Every article has to be in your reference section. So you need a minimum of 5 references because you needed a minimum of 5 articles for the introduction. So you should have a minimum of 5 references. If I want to add another reference, let's try mask wearing. Face mask here. Let's say I use this article. You want to cite again. You're going to do APA. You're going to copy. You're going to down here, and you're going to paste it in, and then you're going to format it, right? So I like to cut the bottom lines here and then paste them in so I can indent them. Same thing here. And there's my same author, right? So now if you have the same author, you generally want to put the more recent article before the less recent article. So 2022 is more recent to 2020. Generally, you're not going to have the same author. It just happens by chance I picked the same person here. That seems to be very active. Here's empathy and mask wearing. So this one, if I want to copy and paste, you wanted one source, one article for each of the 5 hypotheses. So you should have a minimum of 5 articles. This one's with a different author. We're going to cut and paste this again. Like that. Now M occurs before P, so this one has to go above the other 2 articles. So I'm just going to cut that and put this at the beginning. Like that. And then you keep doing it, put it in alphabetical order by author last name. And if you have the same author, just go by year. The most, the most recent versus the older articles. And that's it. And that's your reference page. So you'll have a title page. Looks like this, with a short title in the header, left header, page number in the right header. You want page numbers on all your pages of your manuscript. You're going to have your full title here, your name, institutional affiliation below that. And that's it. Not my name, not anybody else. Just your name. Your abstract on page 2. You're going to write that, less than 150 words. And then your references section here in alphabetical order by author last name. And that's it. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. And you're going to save it as a PDF. You're going to submit it on Brightspace. And I have the link up on Brightspace already. So let's go to the link. So the link's right here. Title abstract references. Upload your title abstract reference submission as a PDF file here. And I will read them as soon as I get them, give you feedback, and then you'll be complete. You'll have the entire manuscript written, except for the results, which I've written for you. And then you're going to submit it, a revised version of it. So you're going to make the changes that I ask you to make, and then revise it, put it all together, title page, abstract, introduction, method, results, discussion, references. And I wrote the method for you, so you just have to copy and paste it. And you're going to submit it as your revised final paper as a PDF file. And then I'm going to look for improvement. So hopefully you made changes that I suggested. You made the paper better and that you improved it. And then you'll get a grade for the final paper. And that'll be averaged with your grade for these sections, these rough drafts. And that's it. So hopefully that's straightforward. If you have any questions, let me know. You can send me an email. You can meet me during my office hours. Just let me know. And bye for now. And I look forward to reading your submissions.